Have you ever made a bad decision? Maybe a better question would be, do you remember the last bad decision that you made? Most of our decisions don't impact our lives greatly. The young brother mentioned to me some time ago when he looked at my tie, "You have some work to do, Brother Hyatt." Well, maybe that was a bad decision. But some decisions impact our sacred service and our relationship with Jehovah. And that's highlighted in today's text. When viewed in their context, we quickly discern that the words of today's text were not given as commendation or even as reassurance, but were given in the context of corrective counsel. Now, who was being counseled? King Asa, the great-great-grandson of King David, the third king of the kingdom of Judah. He ruled for 41 years, and he has the distinction of being known as one of the faithful kings of Judah. So with that in mind, the question arises, why would a faithful king need corrective counsel? To answer the question, let's turn in our Bibles to 2 Chronicles chapter 16:7. At that time, Hanani the seer came to King Asa of Judah and said to him, "Because you relied on the king of Syria and did not rely on Jehovah your God," so there was the bottom line, the root of the problem, "the army of the king of Syria has escaped out of your hand." And then Hanani reminds Asa of an earlier event. He asks, "Were not the Ethiopians and the Libyans a very great army with many chariots and horsemen? But because you relied on Jehovah, he gave them into your hand." Well, sometime earlier, Asa and the nation of Judah were confronted by Zerah the Ethiopian and 1 million troops. How did Asa handle that crisis? Well, he humbly prayed to Jehovah and put himself and the nation in Jehovah's hands. And Jehovah was favorably impressed with that approach, and he gave Judah the victory. Now, in this case, when King Ben-Hadad came against Judah, rather than relying on Jehovah, Asa bribed Ben-Hadad. So it was Baasha who came from Israel. He bribed King Ben-Hadad, and it seemed to be successful. Ben-Hadad came against Baasha. Baasha withdrew from Judah. All was well, except that Jehovah wasn't pleased. Asa left Jehovah out of the equation. So with that in mind, in verse 9, we have the counsel, don't we? "For the eyes of Jehovah are roving about through all the earth to show his strength in behalf of those whose heart is complete toward him. You have acted foolishly in this matter. From now on, there will be wars against you." So there was the reminder and the counsel. Now, why, when confronted with 1 million, did Asa depend on Jehovah? But when confronted by King Baasha of Israel, he depended on himself. Isn't it true that when we face a situation, a problem, a decision must be made, but the situation is so much bigger than we are? We turn to Jehovah, and we beg for his help and for solace and comfort, direction. It may be a catastrophic illness that we know isn't going to be resolved in this system. It could be the death of someone close to us, or perhaps a family member or a close friend is disfellowshipped. We have no control over the situation, and we lean on Jehovah. But other decisions may seem to be more within our grasp. For example, the selection of a marriage mate, the choice of a career. Maybe we came to work here and to help with construction. We might have sold our home, cut our ties, and now a project is nearing completion, and we have to make decisions. Will we go back where we came from? We weren't pioneering before we came, but now after spending some time here at Bethel, we're thinking about spiritual goals. Can we pioneer? Should we stay in this country? Is it possible we could move to another country? If we're not careful as we make these decisions, we could leave Jehovah out of the equation. So here's a question. How do we include Jehovah in the equation? Well, there are three things that we can do. The first is research. What does Jehovah tell us in His Word that has application to the situation we're facing? What has the faithful and discreet slave told us in the publications? Has there been an article, some direction that would be helpful to us? A second ingredient is that of prayer, talking with Jehovah about the decision that we're making, and keeping in mind that we don't expect Jehovah to do our thinking for us, but He will help us and direct us so that we can make a good decision. And finally, here in the Bethel setting and in the congregations, we have a wealth of experienced, faithful brothers and sisters who would be more than happy to help us benefit from their experience in life. So if we do these three things, our research, prayer, and talking with experienced, faithful ones, then we can make a good decision. Now, here's the question. What is a good decision? Wouldn't you agree that ultimately a good decision is one that Jehovah can bless? And often we have a number of options, and it's not necessarily a question of making a wrong or right decision, but what can we do that will enhance our relationship with Jehovah and give Him something to bless? Now, there's one other point in the account that can be very encouraging to us. If you look back at 2 Chronicles chapter 15 and the B portion of verse 17, it says, "Nevertheless, Asa's heart was complete all his life." That's interesting, isn't it? Now, in our text for today, we're told that Jehovah is searching for those whose heart is complete toward Him. Ultimately, Jehovah viewed Asa as one whose heart was complete. It's comforting to know that Jehovah did not measure the man because of one faulty decision. He looked at the whole picture, and evidently Asa's good qualities and his zeal for pure worship outweighed the bad decision that he made in this case. So when we make bad decisions, and we will from time to time, then we take comfort in knowing that Jehovah will continue to work with us. And ultimately, what we want is for Jehovah to look at each of us and to say, his or her heart is complete with me.